Now, when you're done mixing, editing, and recording, not necessarily in that order, you gotta find some kind of way to get your mixes out of Pro Tools and into the real world. What up, y'all? This your boy Wavy Wayne, and today we're gonna talk about bouncing, all right? Bouncing the disc and bouncing the tracks. Those are two effective ways that you can use to export your final mixes and get them so that people can hear them, listen to them, and enjoy them. All right? Bouncing is the act of recording all of your tracks, including the effects, so everything that you have in your session, down to a stereo audio track. Now you can bounce it down to a file, which will go automatically to your hard drive, or you can actually bounce to a track in Pro Tools and record to a stereo audio track and then export it after that. All right, I'm gonna show you both ways. Both are gonna be how you can create your take your project from being a session to actually being a song that people can listen to. You can share it, upload it on SoundCloud, iTunes, whatever you want to do to it. Send it to your cat. So the first step in bouncing that I always do is actually make sure that I create a fade out at the end of the song, all right? Super important to make sure that song ends nice and cleanly. So let's go ahead and show you how I make my fades. I'll go ahead and listen. Let me listen to the end of the song. Cool. So at the end of the song, I see first, let me put a fade on this clip where that ends. But even though the clip ends, I'm still going to do a fade. Even though I had this fade here, I'm going to fade out on my master fader. That way, all of the effects, that reverb tail, that delay tail can end and nice and cleanly as well. Cool. So I'm going to start off by placing a breakpoint, an automation breakpoint on my master fader. Now by default, the master fader displays the volume automation line. If your master fader isn't displaying this line for whatever reason, then just click on the track view selector on the master fader and change the volume. All right, but mine is. So to add my breakpoints using my smart tool, I don't use no other tool, baby. I'm just gonna hold the command key and click once at the start of where I want to start my fade, and then once at the end where I want to end the fade. Now, this is going to be a short fade because I just want that little echoes to kind of drop right off. And then I'm just going to grab my second breakpoint and drag it down. Boom, just like that. Well, niggas acting about doing the chicken soup. Nice and easy, all right? Now, one way that I can easily just make a selection, because you have to have a selection for your bounce. It's so important to dictate the bounce range. That way you don't end up with extra time in the beginning or end that you don't want in your final mix, in your final project, okay? So one way is to just click at the end of my fade out, hold shift, which is the button to extend selections, and then I hit return, and that'll extend the selection all the way from the end of my fade out to the beginning of my session. That's one easy way to select the entire session from the beginning to the end, and then I could bounce there, right? As long as I got my timeline selection, we good. But another way, it's probably going to help you a little more and be more efficient, more cleaner, more organized, is by actually creating markers in your session. So I'm going to go ahead and create markers at the beginning and end. So at the end of this fade out, I'm going to hold the control key and click in my markers ruler and just call this end. And let's hit return, go all the way to the beginning, hold control, click at the beginning, and we'll call this start. So I got a marker at the start of my song and the end of my song. You see, you got the two markers there. Easily, I can just click on the end marker or the beginning one, hold shift, click the other marker. Now I have a timeline selection from the beginning to the end of my song. It's going to make it very easy for me to bounce down now. Well, at least Pro Tools will know where I want to start the bounce and end the bounce. Cool. So after you got your selection, just go up to the file menu, choose bounce to, and disc. Now this is the way that I bounce most of the time. The bounce to tracks feature works as well. I use that sometimes, but this is what I do the most. Under bounce source, this is where you just choose what your outputs are. So whatever your main outputs are that you've been listening to, whatever's going and feeding your master fader, make sure that that output is selected there as your bounce source. Under file type, that's up to you. Do you want to bounce down in a wave, Yes. Wavy. Make sure you hit up Wayne.wav and get your merch and templates and all that stuff. All right. Bounce down to Wave. You can bounce down to AIFF. You also got the MP3 option, and you also have QuickTime option. All right. I'm most of the time either bouncing between Wave or MP3. If it's a rough mix and I just want to send it out real quick, I'll bounce down to MP3. Otherwise, I'll go with the Wave. All right. Now, format. Format is where it's very important to choose the right format. A lot of times we'll choose the wrong format and end up with 2 files or something like that, right? So if you choose mono, right, choosing mono will basically sum your left and right channel together, getting rid of any stereo information that you may have created. We don't want that. We work too hard on our pans and our effects and all that stuff to fold it down into mono. Multiple mono. If you choose multiple mono, this format will give you 2 channels for your left and right information. 2 tracks, so I'm sorry, 2 files. One for the left information, one for the right information. They'll have a little .l and a .r extension on it. We don't want that. That'll be impossible for somebody to listen to as a stereo song. They can only listen to one side at a time outside of Pro Tools. So you know, you definitely don't want to go with multiple mono unless you're planning to come back in another Pro Tools session or another DAW. Okay. So the preferred format is going to be interleave. Interleave guarantees that you're going to have your left channel and your right channel bounce down into one interleaved file. All right. That's the way that I like to do it. As far as bit depth and sample rate, typically I'll keep that at whatever I recorded at, especially if I'm going to mastering or anything like that. But if I'm bouncing down and I'm going straight to MP3 or I'm going to a CD, then I'll make sure that my bit depth is 16-bit and my sample rate is 44.1 kilohertz. My normal bit depth that I record at is usually 24-bit 48K, just so you know. All right. So conversion quality. Now the conversion quality goes from low, which is the fastest, good, better, best, and then you got tweak head. I don't know if that's being funny, but I like to go with the tweak head. I want my conversion to be better than the best. All right, I want it to be the top of the food chain, man. I don't want nothing less than the best. I want better than best. I want tweak head. All right, so I go with that as my conversion quality. All right, it may be a couple seconds longer, but honestly, I never even tried none of the other ones because why? Why would I want to have anything less than the optimal quality conversion happen? All right, I ain't never in that much of a rush. You know what I'm saying? Shoot. Cool. After the conversion quality is set, the only other thing that I'll ever worry about is conversion options. And typically after you set this, it stays. But make sure that your conversion option is set to convert after bounce. If it's set to convert during bounce, you could run into some problems with your computer not being able to keep up with the bouncing. And it just puts extra stress on the CPU that's unnecessary. So just convert after the bounce. It really does not take that long at all. All right. Cool. Then you hit bounce. And then you choose a destination for your bounce. Always when you're saving files, make sure you choose a destination that you'll be able to find it at, all right? Name it. I'm going to name it. Most of the time when I name a file, I'll just kind of click on the name of the PTX, whatever I named the session, and then I'll go and delete that PTX extension and give it my own extension, like, you know, 1.0 or 2.0, depending which version, maybe clean or dirty, or, you know, for master. You know, I'll put some type of extension to kind of let me know at which point in the progress in the project I'm at. Then I just hit save and it'll start to bounce. Now this is going to bounce the entire song in real time. If you're using Pro Tools 12, you'll also have the option inside your bounce to disk window to do an offline bounce. Now, I prefer to bounce in real time, and I'll tell you why. If I decided to, bouncing in real time forces me to sit back and listen one last time before I actually export and send that project off to my client or something like that. It forces me to take my hands off and strictly listen. So I get to listen to the full song or the full project as I'm bouncing. If you do it offline, you don't have that luxury of sitting back and listening to that song without being able to tweak anything. And, you know, something might just get by you. So I think it's just better to bounce it in real time. Not only that, you know what I'm saying, to make a good time for everybody to pull out their phone, you know what I'm saying, and hit the gram, you know what I'm saying. Hey, we on the gram as the song bouncing down, you know, Instagram. Follow me at Wayne.wav on Instagram. That's a fact. All right, but that's how you bounce down to disk. The next way that you can bounce down is pretty easy. It's called bouncing the tracks. Bouncing the tracks basically is where you're going to record the outputs of all of your tracks, all your audio tracks, all your MIDI tracks, all your effects. You're going to bounce all of those, record the outputs of them all to a new stereo audio track. So I'm going to make a new audio track, stereo. I'm going to name it print. And then I'm going to assign a bus as the input to this track. I'm going to go and assign a bus, the print bus, right? You can just rename your buses and all that stuff easily by right clicking and hit rename. So it could have been any bus. It could have been any bus. And then I want to just select all the tracks that I want to route over to my print track. And actually, let me get us another color theme, make it easier for me to identify. So I'm selecting all my tracks that I'm going to include in this bounce. And I'm going to route their outputs out to the print bus. So I'm just going to hold Shift and Option. Click on the output path selector of any one of these tracks. Shift and Option is the modifier shortcut that allows me to do all whatever function I'm going to do to all of the tracks that I have selected. If you only hold Option, it'll do it to every single track in your session, which I don't want right now, but I only want to do it to these few tracks that I have selected. So I'm going to hold Shift and Option, click on the output path selector, and I'm going to go down to bus, or I can actually go down to track and then choose print track. That's easy too. So then I'm just going to simply record enable my track, make sure my cursor is at the beginning, and then start recording.
Hold up. Life for me a year ago was so much different. 2017, we backed up in the kitchen.
Cool. And that's that. Now that I have my track bounced down, we'll just imagine that it bounced the full thing. I'll double click, rename this file. Let's say Malibu, you know, whatever the name of the song is, Malibu 3.0. And then I'll just export it by going over to my clips list. With that clip selected, make sure you select the clip. Go to the clips list, hit the clips list drop down menu, and choose export clips as files. And then you get a similar dialog box as your bounce to disk dialog box, where you can choose the file type, choose your format, bit depth, sample rate, conversion quality, all of that. Choose a place to save it. I'll save this to my documents, hit open, hit export, boom, and it's done. You don't have to do that in real time because it already bounced in real time. Now, I'll reserve bounce to tracks for when I have longer projects. Like if I'm doing like a full mixtape bounce, maybe I brought each other tracks in and did like some overlaps and stuff like that, and I want to export them all as one a long audio file, then I'll do it this way. That way, if I need to stop in between at any given point, I can easily pick back up where I left off. Because let's say I wanted to keep going, adding more to here, I can easily just
We backed up in the kitchen. It look like Thanksgiving. All these buyers moving.
Add to that bounce, you know what I mean, and then just consolidate these files. Edit, consolidate clip, boom, and now I got my whole file again. So it also, like when I'm doing stuff like a podcast, it's an hour and a half long that I edit up often. I'll just bounce it to tracks. That way, if anything happens, if any mistakes arise, if I hear anything that I want to change as it's bouncing down, I won't have to start the whole bounce process over. All right. So that's the Wavy Way tip of the day. Thanks for rocking with your boy. You know, bouncing down, it's essential. Everybody got to do it, man. So I know y'all gonna like that one, all right? Yo, y'all been rocking with me heavy, and I appreciate that, man. Thanks for hitting up WavyWayne.com. Thanks for all the love, all the comments, and all that. Leave a comment below right now on this video. Let me know what else kind of templates, what kind of plugin presets y'all want to see. About to do plugin presets real soon to make it even easier for y'all to get jumping and get your mixes sounding wavy, all right? Like, comment, and subscribe. And most of all, be dope.